right, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for joining us on today's webinar about the Connecticut SAT School Day 2024 Administration Test Coordinator Workshop. We're holding both a virtual and then we have a couple of in-person sessions that we're doing on Thursday. So again, thanks for taking the time out to join us. Thank you for taking on all the work around the Connecticut SAT School Day. We really appreciate it. My name is Michelle Rosado. I work at the Connecticut State Department of Education. I just want to make a couple little announcements and then I'm going to have my colleagues introduce themselves and then I'll turn it over to College Board. Maybe we can just go to the next slide just so you can see my contact information and Deirdre's, and of course, Stella always makes an appearance, but just wanted to give a shout out. It's National School Counselors Week and thanks for all the work that you do. As the parent of two teen girls, I have my daughter's counselors on speed dial, so I know how much work it is, so thank you. The other thing is I saw in the list of participants that someone has the SAT squad, and maybe you would let all of us be honorary members of the SAT squad that is listening in on the call. I don't know what district you're from, but thought that was pretty cool. So, all right, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Deirdre.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks, Michelle. My name is Deirdre Ducharme. I work in the performance office, and my role is to support you and your staff as well as your students with test supports and accommodations for the SAT. And I'm also available to support any accommodation questions that you might have on the other statewide assessments that we offer. I'd like to echo Michelle's thanks and sentiments to our school counselors and our test coordinators. We appreciate all you do on behalf of the testing program, but then more importantly, on behalf of your students. So thank you. And I think, Michelle, I'm going to pass the introductions to Abe.
Is Abe on? Oh, he is. And just to let everyone know, I just put the link to the slides in the chat. And I'll continue to do that for people that are joining late. Go ahead, Abe. Sorry about that.
No, thanks. Thanks everyone for attending and taking the time out today. Welcome, and I hope the next hour or so is helpful to support you for your administrations in the next month or so. Thank you.
It's actually 90 minutes, Abe, but if you can only stay for an hour, that's okay. So,
since the squads, I'll stay for an hour since the squad's staying for 90.
So, yeah, but yes, and I would like to now turn it over to Adrienne Kupper from the College Board, and she'll introduce her team that's on here. They're great partners in this work, and Adrienne's really going to lead this session for all of us. We know we have some new systems that we're trying to get used to this year. No more Tide. We're using the College Board's specific systems developed specially for the tests. So, Adrienne, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everybody at CSDE. Hi, I'm Adrienne Kupper. I'm the Executive Director of Outreach and Implementation for the College Board. And one of my responsibilities, and it's a pleasure to have this as a responsibility, is I work with CSDE and schools in Connecticut to make sure that you can administer the SAT school day in the spring. I have two people from my team that are here that I just want to give them the opportunity to introduce themselves. The first is Keisha. Keisha, could you say hi?
Hello, everyone. Keisha Smith, SSD, work very closely with our College Board team to support, and of course, Deirdre and the CSDE team to ensure that we are providing those accommodations in preparation for spring school day.
Thank you, Keisha. And then Michelle, are you able to say hi?
Yes. Hi, Michelle Cosner. So happy to be here. Just want to give it a shout out and thank you to everyone in advance for all your efforts. So turn it back over to you, Adrienne.
Awesome, thank you. And so we have one person that's not here on our team today. That is James Wilson. Some of you maybe have been in touch with him. James supports me in our state implementation efforts. So he's not able to be with us today, but you may be in touch with him over the next couple weeks as you prepare to give the test. So let's get rolling. We have a ton of content to cover today, but mostly the most important.
Adrienne, let me just jump in real quick. Sorry, I just want to remind everyone that's on the webinar today that you are muted and you can't share your cameras, but you can use the chat to type in any questions that you have, and we will probably have time to do a raise your hand if you wanted to do that, and we could unmute you. So thanks.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so we do have a bunch of content to cover. Basically, the long and short of it is we want to introduce you and make sure you're clear on a number of the systems that we'll be using for the spring. We've got some important reminders to make sure that you're aware of, and some content to just make sure that you know there's some new stuff to talk about. So we've got a lot of stuff to talk through today. Before we do that, though, what I wanted to do first is we have been getting some questions in about accessing SDMS, the State Data Management System, and Test Day Toolkit. And so there are some troubleshooting things I can give you that may address some of the questions right off the bat, and then some more information about what to do if these are not the challenges you're facing. So the first thing, we are seeing two common access issues with the State Data Management System and Test Day Toolkit. The State Data Management System invite went out to schools last Tuesday in Connecticut, and the Test Day Toolkit emails went out to schools yesterday in Connecticut. We are seeing sometimes with people having issues accessing SDMS or Test Day Toolkit. You get the email, you click in, and it's not working. So one of the main things that we're seeing as being an issue there is that the email that you've provided to us for state testing, which is why you're on the list to get the emails, it isn't matching your College Board professional account, right? And this happens sometimes. You've set your account up 5, 6, 7 years ago, and maybe there's been an email change. And so it's important to make sure that the email that you provided to us through the survey for state testing, and that or if you've updated it with Michelle that she's provided to us, matches what's in your College Board account. If your College Board account email is the old email and it's not current anymore, just go into your College Board account and update that email. And then once that's updated, in about a day, you'll see your access issues get resolved. If the email that we have for state testing is not accurate, update that by reaching out to Michelle and saying, hey, I have an email update, and she'll process that with us. It'll take a day or two for that to happen, and then you should be able to access those SDMS system and TDTK. So that's the first one we're seeing, is that email mismatch. The other thing we're seeing is sometimes we don't actually know that you're the test coordinator. Especially if the test coordinator has changed at your school. And we may have an old contact information for a person that's no longer a test coordinator. If that's the case, reach out to Michelle. She will be able to update that in the CSDE records and also then update it with us. And then once we have you processed through as a test coordinator, you'll get access to the system. So those are the first, those are the most common issues we're seeing for access. So I wanted to address that. Now, if you're having a challenge with access and you're not sure what it is, the fastest way to get your access issues addressed is by calling College Board customer service. I have the number up there on the screen. It is the fastest way they will be able to access and tell you what the issue is quickly. Or if they don't know what the issue is, if it's not clear, they'll be able to tell you, we're not sure what the issue is, and we need to do some investigation. But you'll at least get an update as quickly as we can on that. Sometimes these access issues take a little bit of time to investigate, especially if we have the right emails and we're not sure why you still can't get in. We might need to work with our team to investigate that. So sometimes we really can't answer those directly on the phone, but at least you've gotten to tell us what the issue is, and then we will follow up with you when it is addressed. But like I said, the best way to do it is to reach out to customer service. If you have challenges after that, if you've reached out to customer service and you're waiting and you don't have an answer, you need help, you can feel free to reach out to Michelle. She'll work with me and we'll follow up. Okay. So just wanted to kind of talk through that because if you've been having access challenges, we want you to be able to get those addressed. All right. So let's go into the content.
Can I just stop
Yes.
because there was a question that was put in.
Yes.
When I access the Test Day Toolkit, the student roster is not present. Is this a problem on my end, or has the roster not been added?
So, Test Day Toolkit, you may not see the students in Test Day Toolkit yet. You should be seeing students in SDMS, and that's that. If you're not seeing your students in SDMS, that you should reach out to us about. Test Day Toolkit, it takes a little bit of time for the data to flow from SDMS into Test Day Toolkit, so you may not see them in Test Day Toolkit right now. There may be another day or two before you see those students. If you're still not seeing the students in Test Day Toolkit, I would say by the end of the day tomorrow, reach out to customer service and let us know.
And would that be the same for the rooms and staff?
Yeah,
They're not seeing them being carried over.
Yeah, the rooms and staff should have carried over. And so we've heard this from a couple people this morning. And so I do have people looking into that so we can look into what's going on there. The one thing I can say is that what I do know is that we do have a number of test coordinators in Connecticut where you have, you may be the test coordinator for 3 or 4 schools, maybe your main high school, and then maybe an alternative program and different programs in your school, right? If you administered the test, let's say by the main high school in the fall already, and then you're looking at Test Day Toolkit for, let's say, the alternative program, those rooms aren't going to carry over because they're actually 2 separate schools, right? And so that could be an issue if you're the coordinator for more than one school, or more than, even if the school is a program within your main building. So that could be a reason, but we've heard that that issue raised a couple times this morning. So we are looking into that. And as soon as we have an update on that, we'll work with Michelle to get that information out to folks.
Okay, we got a couple more questions. I want to take them only because they're like things that
Yeah,
are
right.
happening to people right
got it.
now. So, how do I access SDMS? You had to have received an email inviting you to access it. So if you are listed as your school's test coordinator, SSD coordinator, or tech coordinator, and then of course, if you're the district administrator listed in Tide, we use a list from there of district contacts, you would have received an email. I think they all came out by yesterday at the latest, and most of them were last week. So if you're not in one of those roles, you wouldn't have gotten access to SDMS. If you're supposed to be in one of those roles, you can reach out to me, or if you're not sure if you're listed, you can reach out to me as well. I have a list of everybody for every school in the roles. Let's see, somebody was told yesterday that we have to re-upload all of our students, even if they were not there for PSAT. Is that true? No, because the state is the one that's uploading students. We're taking them from PSIS and we're uploading them into SDMS. You can't actually do anything with student data. So I'm not sure why you were
We're
told
going to
that.
look at a slide a little bit later in the
Yeah.
session. We're going to see how the data flows. So I think that'll help you understand that when we get there. I do see that there's the people saying that they're not seeing the ability to choose the test administration, SAT school day, right? And that challenge could be if students haven't flowed through from SDMS into Test Day Toolkit yet. So those particular in the case of you folks that aren't seeing the option to choose SAT school day in Connecticut, like I said, the student data will flow in, and that'll be the indication to Test Day Toolkit that you have kids for that assessment. We should have that though rectified for you by the end of the day today. Even if the student data hasn't flowed through yet, we're kind of forcing those administrations into your accounts right now. So by the end of the day today, if you're not seeing the SAT school day administration for your school right now, you will see it by the end of the day today.
Okay, and then some of these questions we're going to talk about, like how do you do a force match?
Yes.
Why is SAT school day not listed in the toolkit yet? I think it's because it hasn't populated in there yet. How do you get into SDMS? I just talked about that. You need to have gotten an email inviting you to join SDMS. You had to log in, but you had to get an email sent from College Board. So if you didn't get that and you're in the role of test coordinator, SSD coordinator, or tech coordinator, I would say you can reach out to me and I can make sure that you're listed in that role, but then you would probably have to reach out to College Board because they would have to send you a new email, or I would look in your junk folder, maybe your school blocked it. So. All
and
right.
then I did see a question. Can the backup coordinators have access to SDMS as well? Backup coordinators cannot have access to SDMS. We are, though, making sure that the backup coordinators get access to Test Day Toolkit for you, so that they can support you with the Test Day Toolkit activities you need to do. We are hand entering those folks for you into Test Day Toolkit, so they get the test coordinator role with you, and so they'll be in there within the next week. Okay, so you'll be able to see them.
And you can't add or delete any students to SDMS. This is not, you don't have the ability to do that. We're going to talk about that. That's because we use information from PSIS. So if you have something that's not correct, if you have a student who's showing up in there that shouldn't be according to PowerSchool or whatever system you use in your high school, you need to reach out to your PSIS coordinator. If you don't know who that is, send me an email. I'll let you know who it is in your district. They have to correct PSIS. And then when we do another upload, those students will be corrected in SDMS. So we have to do it that way because we have to use accurate data. You can't add or delete or anything like that in terms of SDMS. So it's different than when you did PSAT. I think we're going to talk about the modules.
We are.
And I don't know about the outplaced students. They should be in the outplacement centers, not on your roster. So if they're in approved private special ed facilities, they're the ones that administer the test, not you. All right. So I will go through these questions. I don't want to, and then see if I can answer some of them. And if we can't, we'll try to get to them as we move along.
No problem. Okay, so we got a bunch of stuff to talk about. Let's just get started. First thing, just a reminder, the testing window. Remember, students in grade 11 are required to take the Connecticut SAT School Day. The testing window is March 4th through April 19th, so you do have quite a bit of time to choose. You are not limited to one day. You can test over multiple days if that works for you. You can test multiple times in a day. You can have some kids test in the morning and some kids test in the afternoon, whatever works for you. And you don't have to only test in the morning. So if it works for you to start testing your kids at 10 a.m., you can do that. It's flexible this year. Just a reminder, we are recommending that all students that you have all students complete their initial testing opportunity by April 12th, and that you reserve that final week, April 15th to 19th, for any kids who maybe were absent or had testing irregularities. But we don't recommend that you have any that you plan to do initial testing for your students in that last week, just in case there's a problem, right? So we want everybody to try to get the initial opportunities for testing for students by April 12th. And I did see a question pop into the chat. Can you do makeups for kids, like the kind of concept of makeup? So retesting or rescheduling of kids who were absent before April 15th? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. You can, let's say you're testing your kids in the middle of March and you had 30 kids that were absent and you want to test them the next week, that's fine. You're not limited to when you can test them. I just wanted to call out that very last week of testing, nobody should plan to do their initial testing opportunity then, just because that doesn't give you much time if you have irregularities or challenges that you need to then work out. Okay. Let's talk about the state data management system, the topic of the day. It's our new system. And this is the system. Basically, the state data management system is kind of a hub of student data, right? And we'll look at a graphic in a second that helps to explain that. But CSDE, they upload the registration file from PSIS for all grade 11 students, and they put that into the College Board State Data Management System, or SDMS. The CSDE will upload new files each Tuesday leading up to testing, and then daily during the testing window to account for any new or updated students. So as Michelle said, you want to make sure that if you have new students or changes in student information, that it's updated in PSIS, and then if it's correct in PSIS, then it will flow through to College Board correctly. We sent an email on January 30th to schools granting test coordinators, SSD coordinators, and technology coordinators, as well as DAs, access to the SDMS system. So we talked about access. If you're having challenges, reach out to customer service and they can support you with that. Connecticut SAT is not ordered via SSOR. So if you gave testing in the fall and you use the SSOR system, that system is not used for spring testing. All right, so this is kind of how the state data management system works. Data comes in from two places into the state data management system and then goes out to two places. So data will come in from the PSIS upload that CSDE does, and then it will match up with data coming in from SSD Online, where the student accommodation data is for students that have accommodations. Those two data sources meet up in the state data management system. And so in that place is where you'll see the student registrations as well as their accommodations, if they have them. And then the state data management system then feeds that data out to Test Day Toolkit, which is the test administrator app. And then it also feeds it to Blue Book, which is the student testing app. Okay, so it is the hub of the information that brings it in and then sends it out to the right place. So there are a few things that you can kind of look at with SDMS. It integrates, as I mentioned, the data coming from CSDE with the information from SSD Online. So for students that have approved accommodations, you will see the approved accommodation information listed in SDMS with that student's registration. Now, you may say, I applied for 6 accommodations for a student and I'm only seeing 4. If you're only seeing 4 there, chances are those 4 are the only ones that have been approved at this point. Okay, if something is in pending status, then those accommodations won't appear in SDMS. You'll only see those in SSD Online if they're still pending. Okay. We'll talk about in a second how you can waive accommodations for a student if they would like to do that. Sometimes we have students that are approved for accommodations and maybe they want to use them for their AP test, but not the SAT school day. And so you can waive those for students. And so we'll talk about how to do that in a minute. Then the student rosters from SDMS will automatically populate into Test Day Toolkit. So you should, like I said, it'll take a day or two here, but you'll see it for Test Day Toolkit. It'll move from SDMS to Test Day Toolkit. And then the student data from SDMS is also what generates the student's testing package in Bluebook. So we talked about accessing SDMS. There was the email that went out. You click on the link in there and you sign in. And then you'll go in and you'll see an SDMS dashboard. So this is what you're going to see. It'll be just right now you're seeing a state view, but you'll see it'll give you a kind of a dashboard view of the number of students you have registered, the number of students that have done things like complete exam setup and started the test and submitted this test. So you'll have a little bit of a dashboard there. And then you'll be able to manage student data. So what you can do is when you click on manage student data, you'll be able to scroll down and see student details. So information about that student, all the information that we have in registration about that student. It's in this screen that you'll be able to both waive accommodations for students if students have accommodations and they want them to be waived, or you can force match a student with their SSD ID number. If it didn't match, you can tell us pretty easily, this kid actually is this kid in SSD Online. Maybe there's a difference in their name, and you can force match that together and get the students their accommodations. The other thing, though, is, like I said, in general, you can see in the student details section all of the student registration information we have for that student. So if you see something is incorrect, maybe a student's name is spelled wrong, that's when you go back to your PSIS coordinator, you get that updated in PSIS, and then it'll flow through and you'll be able to see it corrected in SDMS. So waiving accommodations, this is, like I said, something that we see kids sometimes want to do. They're approved for an accommodation. They don't want to delete it from their profile. Maybe they want it for another test, but they don't necessarily want to use it for SAT school day. So it's pretty easy to waive accommodations for a student in SDMS. You go into their student details page. So I'll show you in a second. You look at the roster and you kind of open up their student details. And if a student has accommodations, you're going to see them listed in there. And there's a very simple toggle switch. There's actually a little button that says waive accommodations. You click that, and then when you're waiving accommodations, you literally just toggle them on and off. You just click it to toggle it on, click it to toggle it off. And you'll
How did
see.
you get to that screen? Someone just asked that,
Sure,
so they
sure,
wanted
sure.
to know.
No problem. I'll actually show you in just a second some additional screenshots that'll make it a little bit clearer. So let me cover here, and then I'll take you into the screenshots for that. But it's super easy to toggle them on and off. You just turn them off, turn them off, turn them on, turn them off, whatever. It's fine. If the kid changes their mind, you can change it. It's totally fine. You want to make sure, though, that the process of waiving accommodations is done no later than 4 days prior to when you want the student to test. Because waiving a student's accommodations or putting them back if you've already waived them changes the test package that the student gets, right? So if a student, let's say, has time in 1/2 and their test package is configured with time in 1/2, and then you waive that, we need to change the test package to make sure the student's getting a test package that then doesn't have time in 1/2. So we need that to happen about 4 days before testing is supposed to happen. Okay. But like I said, you can easily toggle them on and off. We recommend that if you are waiving accommodations for a student, that you get it in writing from the student's parent or guardian, or from the student themselves if they're 18 or older, that they are waiving those accommodations. That's mostly just to cover you, that you can say the parent, the guardian, the student said we didn't want these accommodations for testing. Okay. In the student details page, and again, I'll show you how to actually get there in a second. But you also have the opportunity to do what's called force matching. We know that for most students, what will happen is we get the student registration data and we marry it up with the SSD Online student profile data, and students match, and their accommodations are automatically seen in SDMS and then flow through to their testing package. But sometimes there may be an issue with a student name. So for example, let's say Michelle, we have a registration for Michelle as Michelle Rosato, but maybe the SSD coordinator put her name in as Shelly Rosato, and maybe these two things are not matching, right? It doesn't look like the same student to us, so it doesn't match up. But you know it's the same student. We don't want to make it difficult for that student to get their accommodations. And so in the student profile page, you'll see there's an opportunity to add an SSD ID number. So you can take Michelle's SSD ID number that may be under Shelly in SSD Online, put that in there, and we will force those two together because you're telling us, no, this is the same person, right? So we match that together. And then that way the student does get the accommodations they're supposed to have. Now, I would say if it's not matching up, it's worth kind of some point down the line investigating, is there some change that needs to be made in a student's SSD Online account? But this way, at least for testing, you can get it taken care of, and that student can get their accommodation.
Adrian, there was a question in the chat about that they don't have the ability to edit or doesn't allow that. Would you know if you wanted to speak to that now or later? They're saying they weren't allowed to edit or allow them to force match on SDMS.
Okay, so you're not going to be able to edit any other data but the student SSD ID number, but I can take a note, and if you're not seeing that, I can check in and see why that's happening. Because you should be able to edit SSD ID number. You won't be able to edit anything else in student data but that. Okay, so let me take
They're
that down.
saying it's grayed out,
Grayed out,
like
yep.
that you can't do anything. So thank you everyone for letting us know that, because
I'll look into it for you.
we know you can't edit, but you should be able to force
Be able
match.
to force match, yes. When you do ultimately force match before that is finalized, you're just going to see this screen that's going to basically say, you know, you're putting these two kids together, and you're confirming that this is the same kid, right? This is the same kid here with the SSD ID number, and you want to go ahead with the force match. So the question is like, how do you get there? How do you get there for a kid? The best way for you to do it in SDMS is you'll see here in SDMS there are some choices across the top of the screen. Clicking on student roster will pull up the roster of students at your school. And then you will see a screen that looks like this one here. The first thing you're going to see at the top of the screen is a summary. This is state summary, but you'll see a school or district level summary depending on what your role is. This gives you just a general idea. How many kids are here? And like, gut check. Is there something wrong? Am I supposed to see 500 kids? I'm only seeing 200 kids, right? It just gives you that initial kind of dashboard view. You can collapse, right? You can collapse that by using the little caret there. And then you will be able to see what's on the right-hand side of the screen here, which is the roster of all of your students. So as you're looking at the roster of all of your students, you see here, there are a couple things you can do. There are a bunch of different ways you can view the data in the roster, especially if you're a large school, you're going to want to manipulate that. First off, if you're looking for a specific student, you can use the filters and search for the student. If you're a district and you're looking for kids from a specific school, you can use the AI code in the school name. And then there are some other attributes you can use to be able to find specific kids. There's across the top, basically what you can do is you can customize the columns that you see. There's a lot of columns of student data that appear here, and maybe you're not interested in birth date. So you'll be able to customize the columns you see and do a couple things here to be able to make sure you're seeing what you need to see. Okay. But like I said, if you click on the columns, you can decide, okay, I want to see students' first name, last name, and SSD ID number, but the rest of the stuff doesn't matter to me. You can turn all those off if you just want to see that data. And then you can also filter. There's a couple different ways to filter. This gives you the opportunity to filter and look for specific kids, especially in large schools. If you have a large population of students that you want to find kids with certain attributes, you can do that in the filters. You can sort. So next to each column, if you click on the three buttons, you'll have the ability to sort in different ways, or you can say, you know what, I always want to see first name first, right? So I want to pin that to the side. And you can use that little arrow button to help sort, right? So if you want to sort by last name and you want to sort by last name in from Z to A instead of A to Z or vice versa, you click that little arrow button to do that. You can also choose how it appears. So right here, the view you're seeing right now has a lot of information. It's a little bit more expanded, but maybe and that's called the comfortable view. But maybe you just want to see single lines. Then you can do the compact view. You pick how you want to view it. So you make that choice. But what you'll do here is you see here in the roster view, here's an individual student, right? If you click on this little plus sign, what that does is that opens up the student detail. And in the student detail, when you open up the plus sign, you open up the student detail, that's where you see the fields both to force match a student with their SSD ID number and to be able to waive accommodations. So you just go to the student roster and whatever student you want to see, you click the little plus next to their name, and that'll open up the student details where you can see the student details, and then you can do force matching and waive accommodations. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the test administration system overview. As we've talked about before, there's two big systems that make up the College Board's test administration system. We have Blue Book, and that's the student system. That's the app that has to be downloaded and put on the student devices. And then there's Test Day Toolkit. That's used by test coordinators and proctors. And that is the web-based application that test coordinators and proctors they can access by visiting the Test Day Toolkit website. Let's talk first about Blue Book and getting kids ready for testing. We strongly recommend actually that before test day, you do a student digital readiness check. The digital readiness check, we recommend you do it about 1 to 2 weeks before you're supposed to test. So if you want to test on March 4th, do it, a week or two before then. If you're going to test at the end of March, do it a week or two before then, right? But we recommend you do it a week or two before you're testing. It gives students the opportunity to check devices, make sure Blue Book is working right on their devices, and make sure that that the Wi-Fi in your rooms are working well with Blue Book, all that kind of tech stuff. But it also gives the student the opportunity to become familiar with the Blue Book application, to be able to look and see if their accommodations are correct in their registration, if they have them, if their name's correct, and gives them the opportunity to go through the exam setup steps. You don't want to do it too soon before test day, because if you still think you're going to have some student movement, or maybe you're still waiting for accommodations approvals, you may not have all the information. A student may not get all of that information when they're doing exam setup. But so that's why you want to wait until about a week or two before test day. But what that does is, if there is a problem, it still gives you enough time to be able to say, Blue Book wasn't working on the student's device, so you can work with your tech team to troubleshoot it. Or my students' accommodations were not showing in the right way, you can reach out and we can work with SSD to fix that, right? So it still gives you time before testing to be able to fix any problems. So
can I just stop you there?
Yeah.
Only because
Yeah.
we're just getting a lot of stuff in the chat about like Toolkit, how it's not showing the kids in there, but SDMS is. I can't see how to force match. Where do you wave? Where's the button to do that? So I just want to kind of address like that. Like you can't see them in Toolkit because it hasn't populated yet. I'm not sure like what the
it's populated.
timeline is on that.
Yeah. So for Toolkit, some schools are seeing students in Toolkit. It's kind of the data is processing through. So I would give it a day or two. If you're not seeing students in Toolkit by the end of the day on Wednesday, let us know. If you're seeing students in SDMS, though, you're off to a good start, because it means we have the data. If you are going back to how to waive accommodations, let's just, like I said, you go into the roster, waive accommodations and force match. You go into the student roster, okay, and you find the student you want to do it for. So in this case, we'll choose this first person. You click on that plus button, and I'm just taking you back a screen here to a student. Sorry to click through like this, but you're going to open the student's record. Okay, when you click that plus button. And what you're going to see, sorry, is going to look like what's on this screen here, right? So you're going to see the student, you'll see a student last name, their first name, and you'll see you'll see an SSD ID number box, and you can put the SSD ID number in there. And when you enter that in and save it, that'll force match the student. Right below this, and I'm sorry, I don't have a screenshot, I just have the detail page. But right below that, you'll see the opportunity to waive accommodations, and it'll look like this, where if the student has accommodations that have populated into the system, you'll see the accommodations listed out, and you'll be able to waive them. Now, you may not, remember the student, you'll only see accommodations for that student if they've been approved. So if the accommodations are still pending, you're not going to see this in a student record yet. You have to wait until they've been approved. Okay? I think that should address those.
And also that the
Uh-huh.
fact that we've said that it's not working to let you to waive accommodations yet. And Adrian is going to check into that, and I will definitely send out an email about that and also about some clarifications on some of these issues that everybody's bringing up in the chat. We know you can't do anything on that screen. We didn't know that until today because I don't have access to that. But it wouldn't be something I would do on my end. But so thank you for letting us know that. And then I see like there's some other like specific questions that we'll try to answer on some other issues, but we'll get back to you. I'll get back to you in an email. And if you have specific things that are just specific to you, or you're having an issue, you can reach out to me. More than likely, you're going to need to contact the College Board, but I'll see what I can do in terms of helping you on my end. So thanks, Adrian.
No problem. So let's move into the student digital readiness check. So as I mentioned, it gives students a chance to kind of do a couple things, get familiar with Blue Book, make sure that their device is working correctly, it's installed correctly. They can complete the exam setup process. They'll get to see the test taker rules, and they have the opportunity to participate in Big Future School and Connections. We'll talk about that in a minute. They'll have the opportunity to add their score sends, their for-free score sends, and if you'd like, you can set it up so they have the opportunity to complete the digital test preview if you want to give them a chance to do that, or a full practice test. So I'm going to show you the screens that a student's going to see for the digital readiness check. I'm walking you through these screens. We're also going to have a PowerPoint that we're going to give to CSDE to post, which will be a PowerPoint that you can use with students in the classroom to guide them through the digital readiness check. So it'll be instructive. It'll have the screens and also explain, do this, fill this information out and press next, or whatever it is that needs to happen. We want it to be easy for you to take that PowerPoint, customize it, put in your test dates or whatever, and then give it to your teachers to use when doing the student digital readiness check. So we'll post that. We'll provide that to CSDE to post. So hopefully it'll make the student digital readiness check process a little bit easier for your folks. Okay, so they sign into Blue Book.
Adrian, I'm sorry, there's a question in chat about do they have to sign in preferred with the sign-in ticket or College Board account? And I was just if you could clarify with this sign-in ticket. Yes. Thank you.
So if you see here, they're going to see sign in from your school. They're going to choose the yellow button, right? You don't want them to sign in with their College Board account if they have one. They're going to need to use the sign-in ticket credentials that from the sign-in tickets that you'll print from Test Day Toolkit. But so they'll choose the yellow button and use those credentials to sign in, and that's how they're going to see their Connecticut SAT School Day registration. When they sign in, they're going to get the privacy policy for using this app. So they're going to scroll through it and then click next. And then they're going to see a test card that looks like this, right? So you'll see, okay, that they're going to take the SAT, the information about it, and what you're going to do on the day of the digital readiness check is you'll have students click the yellow Start Exam Setup button. So they're not going to be starting the test itself. They're going to be starting the exam setup. So if you think about it in the ways that we used to have a pre-admin session in the old digital testing we did, this is the same idea. This is essentially a pre-admin session. When you click to start the exam setup, they'll get a card that looks like this. So it'll have the student's name, and it'll have, if they have testing accommodations, it'll be listed here. If that information is correct, they click yes. If the information is not correct, they should click no and let you know, because there will be something that will need to be changed in their test package. Maybe if their accommodations aren't correct or something like that. So if the information is not correct, they should not go through this exam setup process. In most cases, it will be correct, and they should go through the exam setup process. So they will get the SAT testing rules, specifically the rules about taking the SAT. They again need to scroll through that and click next. And then they'll see the opportunity to participate in Big Future School. So Big Future School is the College Board's app that a student can download. It's a free app. The student downloads it, and it's a way for them to get their scores directly on their phone if they would like to do that. In addition to getting the scores on their phone, they can also get some general information about planning for college and paying for college and careers and all that kind of stuff. So if this is totally optional. A student does not have to do this, but if they would like to do this, if they would like to get the app to get their scores on their phone, they put their mobile number in and then they press next. If they didn't put their mobile number, they'll just be asked, they'll get the screen to see, basically just to confirm. Did they do it by mistake? Did they meant to? If they meant to put their phone number in, they can do it now. If they don't want to, they skip this step. And then they're going to see the opportunity to opt into Connections. And Connections is College Board's new program that helps students connect and learn about colleges and scholarship programs that might be a good fit for them. It is a data privacy friendly application. So what happens, or program? So what happens is that a student says, yes, I want to participate. And we, College Board, will send them information from schools that are looking for kids like them, but we do not share the student data with the college or university. Okay, so we'll share the information with the student, but we're not sending their data to the college or the university. The student then gets to look and see and decide, like, hey, maybe this is something I want, maybe it's a college I want to learn about. And if that's the case, they click on the information and then they decide if they want to send their name or email address to the school. So
I
again,
just want to jump in here because there was a question and I actually wanted to know what they should do. So I guess it's a couple screens back. They're going through the digital readiness check.
Okay.
The kid's information pops up. What if something's wrong? What should they tell the kid to do at that
If
point?
something is wrong, so there are two different ways that things could be wrong. The first thing is a student's name could be wrong. It could be misspelled or something like that. If that's the case, the student should go to the proctor, the test coordinator, whoever's leading the digital readiness check in that room, and say, this is wrong. And what you as the test coordinator will need to do is work with whoever it is in your school, in your district, to look at that student data in PSIS, because chances are it's going to need to be updated in PSIS. It could be misspelled or whatever. So that's going to be the one thing. The other thing that could be wrong is the student's accommodations might not be accurate. If the student's accommodations are incorrect, so let's say they're supposed to have time and a half, but it says double time. If that's what it says, then that student's going to need to work with the SSD coordinator. The SSD coordinator may need to make a change in SSD online if what was entered is not actually what the student is supposed to have. So if the student did not complete, if the student data is wrong in either of those cases, they shouldn't complete the exam setup portion. Although what they can do is they can still look at the digital test preview. They can still do the full length practice test because those are not linked to student data. I hope that is helpful.
I think so. I mean, yeah, that seems like they would have to go back in and do it another day, or at least check that the information got corrected. You could check it in SCMS. If it was made in PSIS, the update should be reflected like in the next within 24 hours. But if it's an accommodation thing, it can take up to 4 days to be reflected, right? If you make a change to that.
Yes. So it may not take that long, but it could take up that long. It depends on how much data is being processed at the time. So
I also just want to stop. We're not talking about PSAT because it's different than what we're doing for Connecticut SAT School Day. The preferred name, the legal name, we use PSIS. You might use something different because you register your own kids. You're right. Students might have a College Board account under a different name, but there's a way College Board can merge those accounts if the students changed their name or their gender and things like that. There is a way for them to do it through customer service, but we are using PSIS. students can have their preferred names in PSIS, and that's how they're going into the system. So there are differences between the way we do things for our tests versus the way you're going to do it for PSAT. And I guess I would prefer if you had PSAT questions to go the whatever route you usually go. Maybe that's through customer service.
Okay, so like I mentioned, Connections is optional. A student doesn't have to do it. They are welcome to participate in the program, but they don't have to if they don't want to. Either way, if they want to do it, they click yes. If they don't want to do it, they don't click yes, and then they click next. And then students will have the opportunity to add their SAT free score sends. So this basically what happens here is they'll see the screen that's here on the screen to add their score sends. If they would like to send their scores, they start typing in the name of their institution. So if they're going to send it to University of Connecticut, they start to type University of Connecticut, and then they'll see a drop-down list start, kind of populate as they type. And then they'll choose that from the list, and they'll add that, and they can do that for 4 schools or scholarship programs. They don't have to do this. Again, this is entirely optional. So they add whatever they want to add, or not, and then they press next. If they didn't add 4 schools, they are going to get this screen that will just confirm, like, hey, you didn't add 4 schools. Did you mean to do that? And if they need, if they were like, oh no, I meant to add 4, they can make more selections. Or if they're like, no, I'm good, they click I'm done and they move forward. The next thing they're going to see is their test day checklist, which basically lets them know what they need to bring for test day, what they can bring for test day if they'd like, and then what they absolutely cannot bring with them for test day. So this is consistent with all of the information that's in the manuals and all that kind of stuff. But it's a chance for kids to be able to see this list before test day and read it and make sure that they're aware. And then that's the exam setup process. It's pretty quick. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. And then what'll happen is after exam setup is complete, you click return to home, and it'll take you back to it'll take a student back to the test day or the Blue Book screen. I do want to call out though, for free score sends in Blue Book, a student has the opportunity to add them here during the digital readiness check. We know sometimes kids change their mind though, and previously they weren't able to change their score sends if they did it before, but we've changed that for this year. So kids can add or change their free score sends after the test if they decide to do that. They will need their sign-in ticket credentials to be able to get back into Blue Book, but they sign back into Blue Book after they've taken the test, and they'll see something that looks like this, right? Which is they've taken the test. It'll say your answers have been submitted. You've taken the test. But for up to 3 days following their test, they'll see this little button up here where the yellow arrow is pointing that they can click on, and they can change their free score sends if they would like. Okay, so just know that we've had a number of kids, especially in Connecticut, that after the test either wanted to remove score sends or maybe add score sends. Up to 3 days after their test sitting, they'll be able to do this in Blue Book. They just use their credentials to sign back in. As I mentioned, kids will have the opportunity to log into or to opt into participating with Big Future School, the mobile app. This is a little bit more information about Big Future School. It's an app on a student's phone. This is where they get their results. This is where they'll see some information about the basics of things like financial aid and college applications and how do you think about college and how do you think about careers. So this information is available in Big Future School if they would like to participate. We don't use the student cell phone number for anything, but giving them access to the Big Future School app, they'll get a text with information on how to download it, and then they'll get a notification when their score is ready. And so that's the only thing we will use a student cell phone number for. There's a video about Big Future School. And so if you're interested in, it's designed to help students and their families understand Big Future School and Connections. It's a 4 or 5 minute video, and it's maybe it's less than that. And it's actually, it covers all the important information you need to know about that. So we wanted to share that information with you. If you want to share it with your schools and with your students and your families, it could be maybe a really easy way for them to get the information about Big Future School and Connections to decide if they want to participate. We also then, as I mentioned, we talked about Connections, which is the opportunity a student can say, yes, I want to do Connections too. And then in the Big Future School app, they will get messages from schools that are looking for kids like them. So they'll get a little bit of information about a school, a little bit of information about what what that school is about and where they're located and majors and all that kind of stuff. And then they can decide, hey, I'm not interested, so I'm gonna ignore that message. Or maybe I am interested in this one. They click on it, it'll take them to a page where they can decide if they want to share their contact information with that school to learn more. As I mentioned, after you click, kind of going back to the homepage in Big Future School, a student logs in and a student will get to the homepage and it'll look like this. At the bottom, you'll see a practice and prepare portion of the screen, and there are two things to be aware of. There's the digital test preview. We recommend that you do the digital test preview with students during the digital readiness check, making sure that each student knows how Blue Book works before they sit down to take the test. It takes 10 minutes to go through the digital test preview. It gives students the opportunity. There's a handful of questions in reading and a handful of questions in writing that they can go through and just get a sense of how the questions look and what it's like to answer the questions in Blue Book. They'll be able to access all of the universal tools, and so that they become familiar with them. They'll be able to see the test timer, all that kind of stuff. They'll be able to access the calculator, so that they're just not doing that for the first time on test day. We highly recommend that as a part of the digital readiness check. Sometimes schools, though, may want to have their students do a full-length practice test. That's also available. So you could do the full 2 hours, of the practice test if you'd like with your students. Or if a student, you can let students take their test tickets home with them and access the practice test at home. That's okay. Students are allowed to take their test tickets home. We recommend that if you're having students take their test tickets home, you print out a second set of test tickets that you keep for test day, because we know kids won't bring them back when we ask them to. But it's okay to have your students take the test tickets home and be able to access practice if they would like. So there are 4 full-length practice tests on Blue Book, and it's an opportunity for a kid, again, to experience the test before test day. We highly recommend that students with accommodations especially, go in and use the practice test to just experience what their accommodation is like before test day. That can be really helpful for those students. There are also 4 full-length linear non-adaptive paper tests that can be printed out off the website. So the tests in the Blue Book app, the practice tests in the Blue Book app are adaptive tests, just like the test they'll take. But if it's easier for you, or you want to print out a paper practice test to use in your classroom, you're welcome to do that. Just know that they are not adaptive, the paper tests. So the questions will be the same type of questions they'll see. We obviously just can't do the adaptive test in a paper format.
Okay, we had a couple questions before you move on
No
about
problem.
that. Let's see, the full-length practice test, they can use it using their College Board account in Blue Book, right? Besides using the test ticket.
Aside from using their test ticket, if they have a College Board account, they can use that to log into Blue Book and access the practice test too. Yes.
Okay, now, I know we said we weren't going to talk about PSAT, but someone asked me about the digital readiness check. Is it the same? We don't have optional questions that we have students answer. We're not allowed to because of privacy. But I know for PSAT, it can take longer because there are optional questions. Is that about sum it up, the differences?
Yes, that's a very good, yeah. So the digital readiness check for PSAT will be longer because there are optional questions that you do not see for the Connecticut SAT school day.
Yeah, and then are there directions for the digital readiness check somewhere?
Yes, there are directions for the digital readiness check in the manuals. And there are also, like I said, we'll be giving CST a PowerPoint to post that will give you a guide for students through the digital readiness check.
It'll be something that proctors could use as you're doing it in the classroom.
Yes.
You could put up the deck and you could
Yes.
personalize it. We're going back to the why staff aren't showing up, that carried over from fall, but that's something that we're looking into. It could be that they haven't populated yet because you just got access yesterday. I don't know, but I'm very sorry about that, but it is something we're looking into. It's supposed to happen that way, and my fingers are crossed. I think it will. I mean, I don't know.
We'll get it
So,
worked
and
out.
I'm sorry
We'll
about
get it.
that. I know it's frustrating to you. I don't mean to act like it's no big deal, because I don't think that it is. So, okay. I think that We haven't gotten to the test tickets yet. We're going to do that. Someone asked about that. So I'll let you keep going.
Sure.
Thanks.
Somebody did ask the question of how long the digital readiness check takes. So let me get that. Let me answer that for you. So the digital readiness check will take about 10 minutes for the exam setup process for your students to get logged in, to be able to read the rules and put their score sends in and choose if they want to participate in Big Future School and Connections. So it's a pretty quick process. And then if you would like to have the students do the digital test preview as part of the exam, as part of the digital recommend, the digital test preview, it's another 10 or 15 minutes. Okay. Talking about support for students, we do want to call out that we do still have a relationship with Khan Academy. And there's the official SAT, the official digital SAT prep course on Khan Academy. There's not linking with a student's account like there used to be, but there is still the digital prep course that a student can log into Khan Academy, go through and participate in the digital prep course and get and help to be prepared for taking the test if that's something you'd like your students to do. And then I do also want to call out that there's the Educator Question Bank. This is available on the College Board website. So you as educators can log into the question bank, can find questions that kind of meet the kind of content domains you're looking to cover with your kids, or the grade level, all that kind of stuff, right? There's a lot of filters you can use. You can choose from thousands of questions, and using filters, get to a set of questions that you can do in class with your students or give them for homework or whatever, and it includes the answers for you as well. So highly recommend you visit the question bank if you're looking to do any sort of practice in your classroom. Okay, let's talk about accommodations a little bit on digital tests. Just a couple points to review for accommodations. The SSD coordinator will have the list of students approved for test day accommodations. You'll see an SSD online that who's approved for accommodations. You'll also see that data flow through into SDMS. And in SDMS, the test coordinator and the SSD coordinator can see that information. Just remember that some accommodations are administered differently on digital exams. So for example, if you had students who used to do the MP3 accommodation in previous years, that isn't available anymore. So those students will use, let's say, text to speech on the digital test. So you've gone through this in requesting accommodations already, but just a reminder that things may look a little differently than they did last year. And that Blue Book tests are configured to work for students who test with accommodations or assistive technology. So the student will receive a test package that's configured to support their accommodations needs or their assistive technology. If you have students that are using some sort of assistive technology, whether it's a screen reader or they're using their device's text-to-speech functionality or some other assistive technology, we just really want to call out that it's super important that you make sure that the student's device, you've tested it before test day, and that it's configured to support the student to test properly. You just want to make sure that there's some device settings, if you're using text-to-speech, for example, some device settings that you're going to want to be able to make sure are set properly so that the student can see, the student can use, let's say, text-to-speech in the way that they need to. So we do have on our website, we do have information about how to configure the various assistive technologies on different operating systems. And so we recommend that you visit our website to find out. So for example, we know that a lot of schools use Chromebooks. We have a lot of students using text-to-speech. And so there are step-by-step instructions for how to configure Chromevox on a Chromebook, for example, on our website. But if you're using a different type of device and you're using you're using a screen reader, there's directions on how to, let's say, configure the student's device so that JAWS, let's say, operates best with that student's device. So visit our website and you'll be able to kind of see the different directions for setting up the different operating systems and the various devices. One final note on accommodations, just remember the deadline was January 12th to submit your accommodations requests. If you have not submitted an accommodations request, please do so immediately. If you know that there's a student that needs it and you haven't done it yet, please get that in ASAP. And if you have new students, we know sometimes new students will move into the district or students who are newly identified with a disability or whatnot. It will be important that you submit their information immediately as soon as you have it into SSD Online as well. Okay, let's talk. We're going to switch switch gears and look at Test Day Toolkit a little bit here. So Test Day Toolkit, there's two views,
Hey,
remember?
Adrian, I just
Yes.
wanted to jump in because Tracy from Old Lyme mentioned a way to get your staff from PSAT. She explained how you did it. Let's see, she says that you click on the staff, add staff, and all the staff from PSAT are there. The same goes for the rooms. You can add them by doing that. So,
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you.
yeah, Tracy, you want to be part of the SAT? What was that group that's
Squad?
on here? The squad.
Thank you.
We should create a squad, a super squad.
Should have t-shirts.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Tracy. So Test Day Toolkit has two different views. There's the test coordinator view and the proctor view. We're going to talk about the test coordinator view right now, okay? And then we'll talk about the proctor view. When you sign in to the test coordinator view, you're going to see this kind of screen. So let's talk about this a little bit. First off, before we get there and look at the screens, there's a number of steps that you take in Test Day Toolkit to prepare for testing. So you log in to activate your account, you select your school and event, add your rooms, assign students to rooms, add staff, assign staff to rooms and roles, print student sign-in tickets, and then outside of Test Day Toolkit, you need to make sure you're confirming your network readiness. You conduct the digital readiness check. And if you have any students that need translated test directions, those will be available soon on the CSTE SAT School Day website, and you'll be able to print those out for those students as well. So you log in to activate your account. If you've already logged in before for the fall, you don't need to activate your account. It should already be activated. If this is new for you, you're going to essentially activate your account. And you're going to go through the process of you sign into your College Board account. You'll need to do a multi-factor authentication just the first time you sign in, so that we can confirm that it's you, especially because you'll have access to student data in the system. So we need to make sure that data remains secure. So you tell us how you want to receive a code. We send you a code and you log in. You'll then choose your test administration. This is where I know this is getting tripped up for some people right now. So we're working on that. But you should all be able to see your SAT School Day test administration by the end of the day today in Test Day Toolkit. When you log in, you choose your test administration. You'll log in and you'll see this. You'll see this screen. I do want to call out one thing that is a little bit different, which is the sign-in ticket button is going to be a little bit different for you moving forward. We'll talk about that, how that sign-in ticket button is going to be different. So one of the first steps people do is add rooms into Test Day Toolkit. So you kind of click on the Add Rooms button, and you can add in your rooms. You NMSQT and
You just cut out a little bit.
I'm sorry. You can move them over from PSAT, from your PSAT administration information, kind of import them into your SAT School Day one by using that import rooms function, or you can just add new ones. If you have new ones to add, let's say you didn't add any before, you're going to use different rooms, you add in rooms. It doesn't take a lot to add in the rooms. You put the room name and the capacity of that room. So let's say you're using room 101 and that has a capacity of 25 kids. You're going to put that in here. Now, what we would recommend for you to do when you're naming your rooms for the spring testing is, if you're going to test on more than one day, which you probably will, you're going to want to say room 101, March 23rd, room 101, March 24th. This is mostly so that if there's an irregularity in the room, so let's say you're using that room on 2 days in a row, and the first day there was a testing irregularity that affected all the kids in the room. If you report it as a room irregularity, right? Let's say the power went out and the internet went out and all the kids that were in that room couldn't continue testing. I don't know. If that affected only the kids in room 101 on that one day, that's how you can let us know only the kids in room 101 on March 23rd were affected. The kids that tested in room 101 on March 24th were fine. And this way we can reduce the number of kids that we have to put through for retest and the number of kids where we might have to hold scores. So that's why we recommend using the date in the room name as you're doing it. You don't have to, but if you have a testing irregularity that affects the room, it means that that room will be put on hold whatever day that room was used. So we recommend including the date name in the rooms. You also, like I said, choose the capacity for that room. So if you can fit 25 kids in there, that's great. You put 25 in there, and then that way Test Day Toolkit will let you know when your room is full, if you're assigning kids.
Adrian, just two questions in the chat. I just wanted to call out that in the middle of the screen, there's the select from the list, which is a drop down. That was the way that folks can move the information from the fall over is in chat. And then there was a previous question about, do proctors from fall PSAT have to get that code for first timers? I think you said those people who are new, but just wanted to be sure. So
Yeah,
just wanted to clarify it. Thank you.
Proctors have previously logged in, right? Let's say they did Test Day Toolkit. You know, they had access to Test Day Toolkit in the fall for PSAT. They won't need to MFA in. Like if they've already got the code and they're in once, they're in once. That's fine. So you should be fine there. Okay, if you're adding, I'm sorry, let's see here. Click off my screen here. Great. Okay, so you'll also be able to see your student roster in Test Day Toolkit. I know that some people are not seeing it yet, right? But you will soon see your student roster. When you look at the student roster, you'll see the student's name, their testing group. This is meant to help you group kids together that need to be together. So a lot of this is based on timing, the time of the test. You'll see a student's accommodations listed. If you've assigned them to a room, you're going to see which room you've assigned them to. You'll be able to see their attendance status if they started testing, and then when that last update came through in Test Day Toolkit. You can assign kids to rooms if you'd like. It's not required, but sometimes big schools especially want to assign kids to rooms to be able to kind of organize where those kids are. And so you can assign kids to rooms in advance if you'd like. You click through on the different students, you move them to a selected room. In Test Day Toolkit, you can assign them to the rooms. We recommend that you do this if you'd like to print the test the sign-in tickets by room. Let's say you're going to do the digital readiness check in your kids' English classes, let's say, right? And so maybe you want to assign kids to rooms based on, their English classes. You can do that, and then you can print out the sign-in tickets by class. What'll happen is you print them out, and there'll be a header for each of the different rooms that, and then the kids that are in, room 1 will be there under that header, and then the next room will be under that header. You can also remove students from rooms. So if you decide, hey, I want to put them in rooms for the digital readiness check, and then I'm going to remove them from the rooms afterwards, and then we're just going to kind of fill in rooms as people show up on test day, you can totally do that too. You have the ability to put kids in rooms and take them out of rooms. So for test day staff, you'll be able to see the test day staff that are in Test Day Toolkit for you. You can also add staff in here, but you'll be able to see, their staff name, the role, the room that you've assigned them to. If you have assigned them to a room, you'll see sign-in success, which will be, have they signed into Test Day Toolkit? You'll want to know that. If there's a staff member that hasn't, that's important to know. And then you'll see here toolkit access. So once they've signed in, it's good to know that they have access to Test Day Toolkit, but then what you do is shortly before testing, you need to then grant them full access to Test Day Toolkit. What that does is that then gives them access to the student data and room information in Test Day Toolkit. So you'll be able to
there was just a couple questions, sorry to jump in there. There was a question about, a few questions in chat about, can I use Excel to make my room rosters in Excel, then upload them? So I know we have that new feature you're going to speak to. And then there was also the clarification of who, which I think you're getting to on this page, who adds in the proctors. Those were the two in chat. Thank you.
So the who.
Yeah, I just had one too. I wanted to jump in after you get this because she's asked a couple times and I think I know the answer, but I'm not sure.
This is the who question?
About, has to do with Test Day Toolkit and SDMS. So do you want me to just pose it or?
Let me answer the two questions here.
Okay.
And then yeah. So the first question of who can add proctors and staff into Test Day Toolkit, that is the test coordinator. So anybody with test coordinator role access can do that. So that will be your test coordinator. And we're also making sure that all of your backup coordinators get the test coordinator role in Test Day Toolkit. So that's who can add in proctors and staff for Test Day Toolkit. the I'm sorry,
About
Michelle.
Excel. It was the question
Oh,
was
right,
if
yeah.
if you can
Assigning students to rooms,
make
yeah.
room rosters in Excel
Right.
and upload them instead of
Right. So
moving one by
assigning
one.
students to rooms, you cannot upload room rosters into Test A Toolkit. But if you assign students to rooms in Test A Toolkit, I will show you in a minute how you can download those room rosters so that you can have them in Excel. Okay, so you can't like upload a room roster into Test A Toolkit, but if you do assign kids, you will be able to get those room rosters out of Test A Toolkit. That is a new feature that wasn't available in the fall. And then Michelle, what was Michelle Brasato, what was the other
Yeah,
question that you wanted
so
to?
she's having issues with Test Aid Toolkit. She can't move past the Choose a Test Administration page. And I think we talked that there were some people having that issue. So that's a reach out to customer service kind of thing, or?
Yeah, I would say we are doing something on our end called force adding people in, right? This, you don't need to worry about the process, but we should have that force adding done by the end of today. So I would say if you still can't choose an administration tomorrow, call customer service. But we are doing the force adding because we're trying to make sure that all of you can see, even if students haven't flowed through from into Test A Toolkit yet for your school, that you can still get in. So that force adding process is happening, will be completed by the end of the day today. So tomorrow you should sign in and be able to see it. If you can't, that's when you call customer service.
Okay, and then the other
Okay.
part is about SDMS. So the
Uh-huh.
good thing is that she can see the correct number of students, but when
Uh-huh.
she chooses the roster, there's none. Now, is that because you have to create your own rosters in there, or I don't know?
When you choose the roster in SDMS.
SDMS.
Gotcha. It could just be a preset filter setting. So what I would do is just put your school name in the filters, and then you should see all the kids associated with your school.
All right, so she can see them all on the dashboard, but it's when she gets to the student roster that it shows no students. Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully that works, Emma. And if it doesn't, then, tomorrow you can reach out.
Hopefully that'll work. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I'll let you keep going and then I'll see what else we've got brewing.
No problem. Okay, so let's talk about you can assign staff and you assign roles. So as you can add your staff in here. You add staff and you provide the information about them, and then they will get an invitation to Test A Toolkit as well. If they've already used Test A Toolkit before, again, we've talked about, you will be able to pull them over from your other administration. So we're looking into why you can't do that right now. But I think we may figure that out. But if you need to add new staff, you can do that here, and then you can assign those staff to roles. And so you choose a role. Actually, just want to show at the bottom. You choose the role here. So a proctor or monitor. So you put that role in here. You can change it. So let's say you've assigned somebody the monitor role, and then on test day somebody's out, and you need to have that monitor become a proctor and be able to proctor a room. You can then just go into their staff profile. You click on them and just change their role. So that can be done. We know that staff may serve one role for one day and one role for another day, or one role for one assessment. It happens. So you can go into their profile and just change their role pretty easily. Now, student test tickets. So when you go into Test A Toolkit, you see the tab across the top here. It says sign in tickets and data export. This is a bit of a new feature. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about test tickets first, but then we have a new feature to talk about. So the first thing is test tickets. So you can print out the student test tickets. You can do it in two ways. You can sort them by room. So like I said, if you've assigned students to rooms already, and you want to print them out by room, you can print them by room, and we'll have a cover sheet with the room name, and then the test tickets for that room, and then the cover sheet for the next room name, and for that room, to make it easier to sort those. Or you can sort them alphabetically. Okay. Either way, it's up to you. You make a choice, and then you print test tickets, and they print out as a PDF like you see here. So here's the cover sheet on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, they do still print 4 on a page. There is currently no way to print them on a single page So they do print 4 on a page right now. I do want to say we have heard you loud and clear that you want single room, you want them 1 on a page or maybe 2 on a page. So we are looking to make that enhancement for next year, but currently right now you can only print them 4 on a page at this time. So that's how you print the test tickets or the sign-in tickets. But there's another feature here, like I said, this is new. This was not available in the spring, where you see where it says export data. Export data is where you click on that tab and you'll see this. You click the yellow button and you'll be able to download your student room rosters, well, all of your student data here from Test Day Toolkit. But one of the data points that you'll see here is room. So if you've assigned your students to testing rooms, you will be able to export the student data and their testing rooms into an Excel file, and then you can sort them and use that to give room rosters to, for example, your proctors, right? They can maybe you want them to have the printed copy, or you want to hang them up on the wall so kids know where to go, or whatever, right? We know that people wanted the ability to get this the room rosters out of Test Day Toolkit, so that is a new feature available for the spring. And then the other thing you can do, this could be really helpful for you if you're trying to figure out, easily, this is another way we can look and see who's done exam setup. This is a new data point that you didn't have in the fall, and also the testing status. If a student hasn't started testing, if they submitted their answers, this information all lies in that student data export, and you'll be able to use that, like I said, as an Excel. You'll be able to then manipulate it and do whatever you need to do to hopefully manage your administration more easily. So then those were the kind of screens that a test coordinator would see. Let's turn and look at the proctor view. So the proctor view, the proctor kind of follows a couple steps on test day. They start by logging in, they select their school in the event, they confirm the setup of their room that it follows all the guidelines. They'll take attendance for students, they read the script, they start the test, they monitor student progress, and then they will report irregularities and request retest for any students that may have had an issue. So let's look at the proctor screens, and I'm going to click through these because I hate animations and slides. But so I just want to give you a sense visually. The blue up the top, these are the things that a proctor will do, and then down at the bottom, these are the things the student will do. So once the proctor's confirmed that the room's set up and everything, they let kids in the room, and you provide the students with the room code for the room that they're in, and then the student will put in the room code. That's how they check in for testing in the room. So the proctor will then take attendance and read instructions, provide the start code for the room, which basically starts the test for them. They provide the start code, the students enter the start code, and that's when testing begins for the students. And then while students are testing, the proctor will monitor testing. Ultimately, the students, when they get to the end, submit their answer. Their answers are submitted, and then the proctor dismisses the students when they're done and submits any IRs. So this is kind of just like a simple flow of how things work, and kind of you can see how what a proctor's doing and kind of the associated student activities related to it. Okay, so when a proctor signs in, they're going to see if they're assigned to a room, they're going to see the room that they're assigned to, and they can get started with testing for that day. They click the yellow button. The first thing they're going to do is they're going to count the seats and make sure that their room is set up right. So if they're supposed to have 50 seats in the room, they're supposed to have 50 kids that can test in there. They got to make sure they have 50 seats in the room. That's their first step. We tell them to check the spacing, just make sure that the kids are 3 feet apart, or the rooms, the seats are 3 feet apart, that they've covered any teaching materials, that they distribute the scratch paper. We've changed the scratch paper policy this year for the spring. So in the fall, it was 3 pieces of scratch paper. For the spring, we heard feedback that was kind of wasteful. Kids weren't using 3 pieces. So you have to give each student 1 piece of scratch paper and then have extras in the room in case students need more. And then you distribute test tickets. And then you're going to write instructions to the board. And so, the information they need to know to be able to log into Blue Book. And to log into Blue Book, they open up the app on their device, whatever device that they have. They can log into Blue Book using their test ticket credentials, and they need to enter their room code to get checked in. When they enter their room code, basically you see if you have students who are assigned to the room, and then if students entered the room code, they're going to move to this middle column, and then those students are going to have to essentially go through a couple steps to be ready to test. So, kind of just check in. So once they're ready to test, they move over to this column over here. Ultimately, you want to make it so that there's nobody left in this column, unless there are students that are absent, and that everybody ultimately gets to the column on the right-hand side. So then the proctor will read the script and provide the start code. So they start this, the script is in Test Day Toolkit. They just read directly from their device. There's no separate script they need to have. So they read that and then they enter their start code. Or they provide the start code to students and the students enter the start code. Once they've entered the start code, you'll be able to then monitor the students in the student progress in Test Day Toolkit. So you'll be able to see all of the students that are testing. You'll be able to see if they have if they started testing, if they're in section 1, if they're on a break, or if they're in section 2. You're going to see a section 3 in Test Day Toolkit for the spring. Section 3 is the essay. It's only available to it's only an option for students in certain states. It's not an option for students in Connecticut. And so you'll see section 3 in Test Day Toolkit, but nobody will go there. Nobody will be in section 3. You'll also see if there are students that have exited the app or if there are students that have submissions pending. So if they need some sort of help. So you'll use this monitoring dashboard to be able to monitor kids, and you'll see them update throughout the course of the rest of the test day, or the rest of the test. And you'll be able to look at each student and see not only the numbers of students in these different statuses, but you'll be able to see that the student status wherever they are. So if this student was in section 1, you'd see section 1, and then when they move to section 2, it'll update to section 2. So you'll see the status being updated along the way.
Adrian, there was a question in chat about the district administrator view, if they can see all schools completed. I don't know if you want to speak to it now or later.
The district administrator view of which?
Of being
testing
able to,
tools?
being able to see which students have completed testing or
Okay,
not
so
completed.
District administrators have access to SDMS. They will also get access to Test Day Toolkit for each of their schools. Okay. Now, when you're looking at Test Day Toolkit, it's going to be by school, but as a district administrator, will essentially get that test coordinator role in Test Day Toolkit as well. So if you log into Test Day Toolkit for one of your schools, you'll see that. In SDMS, though, you'll also see submission status for students. Okay. And that is where you can look at it from a whole district point of view. And so you'll be able to look across at all the schools in your district, and you will see submission status in SDMS as well. And you will also see the exam setup status in SDMS as well. So if you're in Test Day Toolkit, it's going to be by school. You kind of got to toggle between the schools in your district. If you're in SDMS, you'll have a district view of it all.
Okay, when is that happening? Because I didn't know about that.
Which
The district administrator is getting access to Test Day Toolkit.
we are gonna, that'll happen within the next week or two because we have to hand enter all of you guys. But we know that districts wanted the ability to be able to see what their schools are seeing or support your schools. So that'll be in the next week or two.
Okay, so I will send out an email letting people know when that's happening. There's also a way for schools to add additional people in the test coordinator role after, I think it's February 19th. It was in my email that I provided a couple times to people about how to do that. Someone asked about the data being uploaded into SDMS. It was done last week by us through PSIS. If you don't see it in Test Day Toolkit, we were talking about the fact that there's been a little lag time, I guess, in some schools of that data showing up. So if you could just give it another 24 to 48 hours, and then we'll figure it out if it's still not showing up. I guess the checklist, I wouldn't worry about that. That was supposed to be a tool to help you organize. I'm sorry if you couldn't get access, but it's not something that you need to be using. It was just an additional tool. Okay, and I don't know. So it looks like Trisha called to get access to SDMS, and they told her to call me. But unfortunately, I can't give anybody access to any of those systems. I wish I could, because in Tide, I used to be able to create user accounts so I could help people.
Michelle,
but I
can you
can't.
just forward Trisha's information to me? I'll take a look.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah. Okay. So, so when the test is over, when students have completed testing, you're gonna the proctor will dismiss students, so it just provides the information about what they need to do. They need to collect the scratch paper, check back, make sure the student's testing status is submitted, and then they can end the test. If they have any problems or issues, let's say any testing irregularities, that gets reported in Test A Toolkit. No more paper forms to do that. So a proctor can do it, or a test coordinator can do it. If a proctor does it, it gets forwarded to the test coordinator to approve before it gets sent to College Board. But basically, they choose the type of irregularity that they had. They use the choices to find the best description and provide us with more information, and that gets sent through. At that time, the test coordinator will know whether that's an irregularity that requires a retest or not. Okay, we have 5 minutes left, so I'm going to breeze these next couple slides. I'm just going to go through them quickly. There are things you can read through when you download the slides, but basically things to think about when you're doing digital testing. You just need to make sure that the room meets the various requirements, the room requirements we have. And so most of these room requirements are the same as they used to be. Desks need to be 3 feet apart. All of those kinds of things that make for a good testing room for students. Again, seating requirements, the idea that kids need to be seated 3 feet apart, that kids need to be facing in the same direction, unless they're in a computer lab where it's kind of preset already. And if that is the case, you can use computer labs. You just need to make sure that students can't see each other's screens. And kind of the typical seating requirements that we have as well. You'll also want to make sure that you're thinking through proctor supplies in digital testing. So you want to make sure that the proctors are getting their sign-in tickets for students, that they know the Wi-Fi name and password, that they're getting scratch paper for students, and that they're getting that they have access to extension cords or power strips if you have those available, seating charts if you'd like to use those. We recommend it if that you have them fill out PDF seating charts, but it's not required. And then if you have EL students that need translated test directions, that those are available and shared with proctors. There's, the devices that are allowed, the devices that are prohibited, they're the same as they used to be. But just calling that out, so you'll want to just look at this list when you have a moment. And that there are some further resources to be available. We will continue to have the on-demand test day training. The module that's available through College Board, test coordinators, SSD coordinators, they will have access to it. There's a separate course for proctors, technology monitors, room monitors, and hall monitors. So it's a shorter course. It's the same it's elements of the same content from the test coordinator course, but shorter because those roles don't need as much instruction. That is available. We'll provide the link that you can get into it when it is. But that is also available in your College Board account. You'll see that on your dashboard, test administration training for the SAT suite of assessments. So that is available for folks to use, and you just choose your administration and you'll be able to select your school and get the training that you need. You choose the role, and that's how you get the access to the right course, whether it's the test coordinator, SSD coordinator course, or the proctor and monitor course. There are also the manuals and guides posted up on the CSDE webpage, and you are welcome to call support if you need help. The phone number and the email address is there. If it is a time-sensitive question, please call. Do not email. You'll get an email response within a day, but if it's time-sensitive, you need to know it within like an hour, please call for that instead of email. And I think it's 1:28. Do we have other types of questions that are common that you want me to address in the last 2 minutes, Michelle?
I mean, we have just a lot of people asking about why nothing's showing up in Test A Toolkit. So I just want to make sure to say, like, give it another 24 hours. We're expecting it to populate. Is that what your answer would be?
Yes,
on
that is exactly what my answer would be. Yes, that is my answer.
Everyone's welcome to reach out to me or to Deirdre if you had specific questions. We'll try to do what we can to help. We can also involve James or Adrian or refer you to customer service. Really, the emails, to give you access generally need to be sent from College Board. I can't, I can try to work through it. Like if you're getting frustrated and you're having trouble with customer service, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I can escalate it to Adrian and it'll get done. It goes to Adrian. So somebody has their hand up.
No
So let me
pressure.
see if I can get them to unmute them. So it's Leanne. Okay, Leanne, you can unmute now if you want to ask your question.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. So I just had a question about grouping the students. I know that on in the test aid toolkit, it says that you don't have to do separate rooms for kids that are taking 50% time longer. And in fact, the test aid toolkit does not let you put them in an accommodated room for that. But we found in the fall that that was really disruptive to the whole testing environment with the number of breaks that those kids get and where they are. It disrupted the other rooms. Was there a fix to that? I know that at my school, we asked about that when we were asked for feedback in the fall. Was anything done about being able to put kids, those accommodated time kids in another room?
Yeah, so you should see when you see your students in test aid toolkit, you'll see the group types, and the group types should have the kids with the extended time in a separate room. Kids that have accommodations for their breaks only. So let's say a student has extra breaks, right? And so they're going to have 2 additional breaks of 5 minutes each, let's say. Those kids can still test in the standard room, but you are certainly welcome to assign them to a separate room if you want to. So kids with only the break accommodations, you will see that could be in the standard room. You'll see group type S1. But if you are concerned about that being disruptive to those students, you can certainly put them in a separate room if you'd like.
So I can change their room S1 or S2? That's available to me to do?
You can't change the type, right? So if their room type is S1, it's going to be that because that's what their accommodations are.
Okay.
But you can have multiple rooms that are S1, right? And you
Okay.
can say,
And
okay,
put those.
these 4 are for kids that have standard time and standard breaks, and then this other S1 room I'm keeping as for the kids that have the extra breaks, or so you can choose the room you assign them.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right. There was somebody commented about things that happened during PSAT, which I actually kind of remember. I didn't administer it, but about the rooms crashing, that was on that really heavily tested date.
Tested day. And yes, we have fixed that. To answer that question.
And remember, you have any date open to you in the whole testing window. We don't need to know when you're testing. You choose it. You don't have to test everyone at the same time, although I know that makes it harder. It's easier just to shut down the school for one day to do the testing, but you don't have to. You can pick any of the days in the window. You can use any days for makeups. Every test that the kids go into is customized for them to an extent. So you don't have to worry about, test forms or anything like that in the way that we used to have to. So I'm trying to see if there's any other questions. There were a lot in there, and if we didn't get to you or you had something very specific to you, please reach out. I know I said I might have to send you to customer service, and because sometimes they have to generate an email. It comes from them for you to get access, but we can definitely help work through it with you. And Deirdre knows a lot about pretty much everything about the accommodations. She works with Keisha. So if you're waiting on approvals or you have questions like that, it sounds like Keisha wants to jump in about something. So
Thank you, Michelle. I was just going to say, I've taken a few of the concerns that have come up offline, just asking people to reach out to me. I know there was some things that came up about SDMS or came up about the interactive checklist that, we may need to dig a little bit more into, Adrienne, because they were saying they did reach out and, there have been some struggles there. So we definitely want to offer white glove service here as much as possible. So I'm responding with folks.
thanks.
Thank you,
We just got
appreciate
a
that.
little photo bomb of maybe it was
That was great.
Caroline. I'm not sure. Deirdre's daughter just jumped into the photo. But I just saw that Gail has her hand up, and I remembered what the question is. She was asking about the connections. If they sign up for connections, I think I might just unmute her because that way she can ask it directly.
Awesome.
Gail, you want to go ahead about your question? I think it was about connections. You should be able to unmute yourself. Maybe not. But it was about like if they select connections, will they hear back from any colleges that are interested in them before they have to enter their score sends? It was, oh wait, go ahead.
Yeah, it's whether or not, and it's he, by the way,
Sorry, Gail.
whether or not they're going to get connections information before the time expires for them to edit where they want their scores sent. Because some students might not be aware of certain schools and you might be drawing them to their attention, but then if it's after this point, you know.
Sure. So they won't begin to get connections information until their scores are available, right? Which is like 3 weeks or so after test date. And so they won't see that before their scores sends, before they finalize their score sends. Score sends have to be finalized no later than 3 days after a student tests. So that is a bit of a gap, right? They're not going to see that before that. Students are always welcome to send their scores afterwards. I know that there's a fee associated with that, but I do want to call out that we do have fee waivers available for students who may be financially impacted and need the support of the fee waivers for their score sends. So if you have students that fall into that scenario, let us know because we can make sure that you have fee waivers for those students. We also have a new process where a student can actually request a fee waiver on their own. They don't have to go through the school. And so that is something, if a student wants to be able to do that, they are welcome to do that as well.
Thanks, Adrian.
Thank you.
I did put some information in my last email to the group. If you are a test coordinator, SSD coordinator, tech coordinator, DA, I send emails usually once a week to that group. And I did put something about the fee waiver process in that email. There was quite a bit of information in there. So if you're not getting the emails and you're interested, I'm more than happy to add you to the list. Just shoot me an email. And looks like we might have one more raised hand. I know we've gone past the time, so if you want to jump off, go ahead. If not, then we'll just stay on maybe to do this last question and then we'll sign off. So Jennifer, you should be able to go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Just real quick, this doesn't really apply to the SAT, but Adrian, you just mentioned it about how students can request the fee waiver through College Board. I just had a student request it last week, and they actually, from the adults that they can choose from, counselor was one of the options. So they did list me. Am I supposed to be getting an email to confirm that? Because I haven't received anything yet.
So you may not get an email or a phone call to confirm it. We ask for that, but we don't always need to reach out to the adult. Okay. So in some cases we can just kind of approve that kind of right away without needing to reach out. But you may so it's not guaranteed that you're going to hear from us.
So maybe I'll just have that student check to see if they've been approved through the College Board account. Okay.
Absolutely. If they've been approved, they'll have a notice in their account.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to answer that.
No problem. Well, thank you guys for, I'm sorry, I have to drop.
Yeah, no, thank you, Adrian. And thanks, Michelle, Keisha, Deirdre. Thanks everybody for joining again. We know how busy you are. Just definitely shoot us an email if there's things that you need to help with or whatever. We'll do whatever we can to help you. So thanks again, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.